Hello there, everybody. It is your boy Germ, and I want to start by thanking you all for tuning into Kinetic Aesthetic. I am your hostess with the mostest, the man they call Germ. And once again, this is Kinetic Aesthetic, and it is time for us to have a nice, good dialogue. Now, today's topic is going to be Jaden Ivey, the former Chicago Bulls player. They recently acquired him in a trade just this season, but they had to cut him just a couple days ago. And that is after he started going live and posting Instagram videos where he was speaking out on a couple of different, very sensitive topics. Now, just to give y'all some details, not only did he denounce the NBA for celebrating and highlighting Pride Month, the month of June where they celebrate the LGBTQ community, he also denounced Catholicism as a fake religion. This man was just out there just talking about a whole bunch of crazy shit, some of it personal. Sometimes he was just talking about how much he loved apple pie, but he was just going out there giving a lot of hot takes that someone in his position probably shouldn't be doing. And it wasn't as if this was coming out of nowhere. He had been posting a lot of religious stuff on his social media in these coming weeks. So it wasn't as if this was coming out of nowhere, but for him to go as hard as he did over these past couple of days has been surprising. Just to give a little more further insight, this is coming off the heels of him suffering another season-ending injury. The Bulls had already announced that they were going to be deactivating him on a couple of days prior to his first real crazy video, and that's pretty much most of the gist of what y'all need to understand at this point in the episode. Now, the reason why, the NBA probably wouldn't like him making these comments, like every other major sports league, they are smart enough to know that it's better to have every demographic feel welcome, have every demographic want to spend some money with their ass. So with that being said, it's very clearly some risky shit for a guy in his position to be coming out and saying all this, and it wasn't a risk that paid out for him because the nigga got released literally the same day. Like the same day he made these comments, they cut him and they didn't waste no time. And this is where the story really started to pick up steam and catch fire. I remember I had seen already the video being posted about him saying this shit and people just having their comments, but him getting released has woke up the beast. There's been a lot of different takes and a lot of different people looking at it from different perspectives, and we're going to get into that. So he was the first to really come out and say something real big. He didn't waste any time. He called them, he lambasted them. He called them liars. He was accusing them of religious persecution. He literally said, and I quote, "Just say that this is because you don't agree with my LGBTQ take." So in his mind, this was all just, he had said a whole bunch of stuff about the LGBTQ community, about gay people. And because of that, he was just being unjustly punished. And this got him support. Christians across the nation, I've definitely already, it's somewhat of a popular take amongst us of a very specific sect that, this type of behavior, when you actually have shit happen to you after you come out and say these types of things, that this is just people persecuting you for believing in your faith. As we're going to get into later in the episode, I clearly disagree. I think that there was a very clear reason why this man was released and why they waived him. Honestly, didn't even just have to do with the comments that he was making right here, but we'll get into that later. Now, it's not just been regular people who have been supporting him, just regular Christians. He's had players from across the sports world come out and support him. They already had a player who's a forward for the Lakers come out and support him. Trevion Henderson, who is the starting running back for the New England Patriots, who were just in the Super Bowl, came out and supported him. Not to mention there was a long snapper for another NFL team who was supporting him. It's been clear there's a definite sort of vibe and feeling that people are not fucking with the way the NBA handled this, and they're not fucking with him not being able to come out and just say this all, period. It's not anybody coming out and saying anything overly direct. It's usually just responses with the Bible verses or scripture. So it's no one just really putting their toes in the sand or putting the line in the sand the way he did. However, there has been, the usual Christian conservatives who have been just doing their whole little basic whining and bitching, like I said earlier, and they're trying to make this situation as if it's, like I said, just persecution, just some bullshit on the NBA's part. And honestly, the way that people have responded to the situation would lead you to believe that all Jaden did was try to share his faith. But when you look into the details and you really start to read into what was happening, it paints a completely different picture. Now, I'm going to say, just for context, Jaden Ivey has been a Christian his whole life, and even before he was arrived in Chicago, when he was playing with Detroit, he was outspoken. He didn't hide the fact that he was a Christian, that he believed in God. But it wasn't until he got to Chicago, and then on February 19th, this is only because, and I'm only pointing this date out because this is the first real time he gave a real specific, like, out there quote. He was a healthy scratch. He didn't play, and I guess when they asked him about it after the game, his quote was, and I'm going to try to make sure I got this quote exactly right. "I'm alive through Christ, so it doesn't matter what happens to me." Basically, what he was saying was that as long as he has God on his side, he's not worried about just his NBA career and things like that. He's good. He's got his faith. He's going to be straight. There's nothing wrong with this statement. There's nothing wrong with that. I actually think that is sort of a good way to look at that, especially when you're in that situation. That was the first time in his career, from what I read, that he had ever been a healthy scratch. So, that has to fuck with your mind when you just are healthy and can play, but the coach is telling you he doesn't want you out there. But it's also after this when his time in Chicago really started to get tricky. He was rubbing his teammates the wrong way. He was trying to preach to them. He was preaching to people who worked in the organization. He was being very outspoken about, his Christian beliefs. And while I understand how, you just read that, or you read the headline, and you see that, and you as a Christian feel some type of way. You start to think to yourself, why can't I, as a Christian, come out here and really just try to spread the faith and spread the good word? It's very simple. And I'm going to, number one, this is number one. This is above number two. We have a separation of church and state in this country. It's clear as day. It's been a part that they've tried to make, like even the forefathers, they white asses, they old white racist asses, made it clear we do not want to have the church overly involved in governing politics. So that's one. And then number two, even if you are just working your job and your coworkers are fucking with you and they listen to that, after a certain point, do you not feel like you're just being a bit rude or a bit of a dick to constantly be preaching to people, especially if they just don't happen to have the same beliefs? Now, I don't know about anyone else on the Bulls, so I can't really speak on the religious dynamics of it. I don't know if anybody's an atheist or anything of that nature. But what I can tell you is that there's a better chance than not that there's at least one person in the organization or on that team that you spoke to that identified as a Muslim or identified as a Jewish individual or even identified as Catholic, who he was talking the most shit about and calling it a fake religion. So how is it fair for him to come out there and do what he's doing to just be pushy about his religion to them, and they just have to sit there and take it? Yes, Christians may still be the majority in this country. I don't know. I haven't really done my research on that specific statement, so I'm not going to try to back it up or say it indisputably. But even if Christians still hold the majority in this country, we still owe it as Americans, if we're really trying to actually be what this country stands for, to not push shit on them, to not push anything on anybody. The same way we don't want people trying to push Islam or Judaism on them. Why is it that you just get to preach on and on about Christianity and they don't, and they just have to sit there and accept it? And like I said, if you're holding Bible studies with the teammates, I'm just saying based off of alternatives he could have used. If you're just having Bible studies with them or things of that nature, that's one thing. But the reports are that he was making these people uncomfortable, which means to me he was probably just being very preachy, very direct, very up on motherfuckers. And I can almost sense that the way he's talking in these Instagram lives, he probably didn't hesitate to tell somebody that he thought, even in the organization or a teammate, you're a sinner, you're this, you're that. And you just can't be going around doing that. The thing that we have to remember, and that I want anyone who is a Christian who's watching this, especially if you were offended by what happened to him, if you thought it was wrong, you can say what you want, you can do what you want. But those actions, those words, they're always going to have consequences. And the most clear consequence that's always going to happen, no matter what you try to like frame it as, is that if you are jeopardizing your job's bottom line, if you are going out of your way to just say things that are going to be harmful to the brand, you are going to get dealt with. You are not bigger than the program. My big issue is that, and this is another one, is that the thing about this that really is sad and really irksome is that all these people that are supporting Jaden Ivey, they're supporting him now because he's speaking on this subject and everything, but he's the one that's really having to suffer the consequences and really having to go through all of this mental strife and trauma. And I don't think anyone is really like focusing and really keying in on that, or at least when it comes to the people that are around him or talking to him. Now, I'm not trying to like say anything bad about his family. I'm not trying to say that they probably haven't tried to help him. Like I said, this has been like hinting towards this way for a minute with this guy. But this shit has gotten to the point now where his wife is ignoring him and not responding to his messages. And he has already come out and said that his actual family is calling him insane. So we are witnessing someone who is being alienated in real time, who's losing all the support of the people who are closest to him. And I'm not trying to like jeopardize, like demonize them or say they're bad, because I sort of fucking get it. If you're the wife, this man is throwing away y'all future and y'all home because you already know that. I'm sorry, she did not sign up for this shit. And then as a parent, what the fuck do you do when you raise your son to believe in God and to be a Christian, but you didn't raise him to be talking down on people, to be trying to cast stones? So I can't get mad at them for wanting to separate themselves, but I also cannot help but feel bad for this nigga, because now he's really going to have nobody that is going to genuinely want to have his back and help support him, especially if the checks start rolling in. If he is not able to get himself right and he's not able to really fix what's going on, his life can get very, very ugly in these next couple of years, shit, in the next couple of months. And I'm not trying to cope too hard for this man. He made a choice to do all of this, but I can't help but feel that with his mental all there, like, we would be having a completely different discussion. We wouldn't even be having a discussion. I don't think he would have went this far. Whether you believe in God or not, to have a career in the NBA where you are almost guaranteed to be paid life-changing money, where you have the opportunity and the means to change your entire family's life for generations, after you worked your whole life just to get there like this man did, it just does not make sense to me that he would throw it away. I believe the NBA has plenty of other motherfuckers that don't support pride like him that really probably feel the exact same way. And there's a lot of them motherfuckers who, shit, like I said earlier, there's some of them that are probably coming out and saying, and like indirectly saying it. But they know and are smart enough to understand there's nothing good going to come out of me doing this. There's nothing going to be good about me choosing to die on this hill and taking away potentially the opportunity to feed my family, to take my hold, to take other members of my family out of poverty, to do this and to do that, to just give up everything that they've worked for. This man is going through a bad mental episode, and he's making choices that he would have never thought of doing just last year, probably before he even got to Chicago. And see, the part that I hate about this is that even with all this information I'm giving y'all, it's people even in the sports world that are still trying to frame this as something different. It's so many people that are only reading the headlines, are only looking through the lens of their faith, and not being real about the clear problems that this man has or why he's being punished the way he has. Y'all know if he wasn't just a role player, he would still be on the roster. We understand that this is a big part of why he was waived, is that he's not a good enough player to even justify this, that this is not really even worth it. Because even if he was making teammates uncomfortable, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant were punching their own fucking teammates. They were out here fighting and just being horrible teammates, and they're renowned and they are legendary for it. So at the end of the day, motherfuckers don't really give a fuck if you make teammates uncomfortable. If you can go out there and ball and hoop, they're going to put up with it. But if you are expendable, if you are not really doing anything, if you're, unfortunately, and this is not trying to like rag on him, if you are just constantly hurt, that's not going to do anything. That's not going to mean shit. And on top of that, I really don't even think that all this shit about the pride comments is the biggest reason. Nick Young made a very good point when he reacted to this whole situation. When he came out and said that, you know what, this man could have came out and said he was gay after all this, and he probably would have gotten off easier and gotten off light, because the main thing that's going to get him in trouble is what he said about Steph Curry. Because this man, in the middle of all this is the one thing I left out that he really did, that he said that I want to leave for now. He called Steph Curry a fake Christian, among other things. He even said some shit about LeBron. Now, I'm not gonna try to like tell y'all nothing that y'all probably don't already know, especially if you know how the world works. But a big business like the NBA, a big gigantic corporation, they're not gonna like it when you are talking down on their biggest stars. Steph Curry and LeBron James are without a doubt still the two biggest names and the faces of the league. They don't want anybody coming out, especially just some no-name nigga like Jaden Ivey. They're not gonna want their two biggest stars being talked down on like that. And at the end of the day, that's the most disgusting part of it all to me. They know all of this. They know how this is going to work for him. They know that this is all going to work out horribly in his favor in the end. And yet people are still using him. People are still taking advantage of this man going through a mental fucking episode so that they can push their agenda as if Jesus would approve of these methods. It's to the point where today, as I was starting to do my media review Wednesday, I saw a fucking post about how this man was being brought on a podcast in the middle of him going through all this mental strife, and that these people are just going to have him out there talking and just further ranting and just raving. That shit is disgusting, and the people who were on that show, they need to be fucking ashamed. The simple fact of the matter is that we all need to remember that one of the undeniably great aspects of the country, one of the few that we really can still say that about, is the separation of church and state. It is not only the defining nature of this country's supposed identity, you know, the whole melting pot business that we're supposed to be in, how everybody with so many different identities and different parts of their personality and shit, their faith, can all come together. It also helps just make this country what it's supposed to be. And that shit got to be celebrated, y'all. We got to not look down on that. We got to stop trying to think that that's a bad thing. We got to stop not believing that people can all work, can all be together, despite our differences. It's the only reason why we have trouble is because there's so many people who are so opposed to just working with others, despite the difference. I hate that Jaden Ivey is going through all this, y'all. One of the few things that he has talked about where he has really just been real and not been going and ranting and raving about his faith has been him being honest about the depression he felt after his injuries. It's him talking about how he was suicidal and wanted to just take a whole bunch of oxy pills while he was dealing with one of them. And you know, when you hear that type of shit from somebody, that's what puts it in perspective. That's what helps you understand this man is really going through something. He just got hurt. His season is over again. This is like the third season in a row where he's had a season-ending injury. He went from being a top 5 pick in the NBA draft to potentially now he's probably only going to be a role player if he even gets signed after this whole debacle. And that can be the end for him. That could be his whole career. That can be the most money he's ever going to make in his life. And that's fucking sad. And I can understand how when you're going through that type of stress, when you have that type of anxiety about it, how your life is going, you can look for comfort, you can look for clarity, you can look for knowledge, and you can find it, but sometimes you cannot read it right. Sometimes you can just start looking at you can start picking the wrong parts out of the book. And I feel like that's a crisis that Jaden is clearly in right now. All we can hope for real is that somebody gets through to this man and that somebody gets him to get into some therapy. And he remembers that while pushing the Lord's word is never a bad thing, condemning others and calling out sinners is not his role. As everybody knows, as we all know, Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. That's all I got for y'all today. This is the type of story that I was really going to save for Sports Talk, but it's just been the way this story has blown up and sort of warped from being just a sports story into another culture war story. It made me feel like I just want to get this one out now. I don't know if or when Jaden is going to get some help. He might post something new and outrageous by the time this is out, but I hope for his sake that by God's blessing, he is able to find his chill. Once again, this has been the Kinetic Aesthetic, y'all. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, and do whatever you have to do so you don't miss out on a thing. My name is Germ. I hope you all continue to be great people. Drink water. Tell your friends and family that you love them. But I'm out, and I hope that y'all have a beautiful rest of your day.